Hello, my name is Bree Larson, and I am reading my book out loud. For those of you who know me, you are probably saying, yay, finally we're getting to it. So we're getting to it, finally sharing my book. This is what you can expect from me. I probably won't be looking at the camera very much. If you'd like to read these words on your own, you can go to my blog, breedivine.com, and just look at the latest blog and check it out. You can leave comments if you have questions. Please leave your questions on the blog and then I can address them in the next video. So it's my hope that you will at the very least be entertained by my story. We all know there are multiple sides to the truth, and me sharing my story, it'll definitely come across like me trying to just give my side versus his side. Where I am standing now, I am very much neutral with the truth, and what I call the truth is just the things that factually happened. We can't really argue something that actually happened. But what we can do is we can lean into these events with compassion. And this includes compassion on myself. When I was writing my story, I was going through a lot of this stuff. I've always been a writer, and I've always been into journaling and journalism. And so to me, it's very important to describe things in a way that, that the reader can make their own judgment, and that those who are not part of the experience can hopefully see both perspectives. And if I haven't done a good enough job, then you'll be leaning more on one side than the other. However, I am aware that there are people who will be listening to this who are going through this journey with me, and they may be on the side who is the narcissist. And these people in social media society today, it's perceived that narcissists are evil and they're a lost cause and they can't be helped. And when we think about the victim of narcissistic abuse, I believe that the victim is usually in a light of, well, if they don't leave, they're just asking for more trouble. Or the victim should be pitied, or the victim is the good guy and the abuser is the bad guy. And as we go through the story, we might see that because, like I said, I was writing this story as I was going through this. And so we will be experiencing some parts where I am sharing a lot of one-sided emotional crud that's just coming out in the story, okay? And so that's also where I ask for your compassion too. As I've shared my story on TikTok, I've heard a lot of people just say that, you know, I'm just sharing this for likes and that I'm just sharing this for views, blah, blah, blah. What I'm doing is I'm just exposing myself, especially my flaws, as someone who encouraged Schedule I drug use. Even though I didn't see it as bad, I encouraged it with an officer in the military who had a very high risk of losing everything if he was caught with this. And so we'll be going over how that actually happened, how he was caught, and where do we put the blame. And my hope is that we can go through this journey together, and we can both see that, you know, there could be blame here, there could be blame here, but at the end of the day, we just gotta own it, and we just gotta look at our own mess and face the consequences. And I sat in a very fortunate seat that I was able to express my truth, and I'm able to express my truth here and admit to doing drugs without any risk for speaking my truth. And really the risk that I do take is a lot of judgment from people who may not see my side or be compassionate to my side, and that's okay. I'm not here to try to convince anyone or try to put myself in a light other than expressing my truth. So I hope that at the very least this inspires you to speak your truth too, or just join me in this entertainment. So Let's get started. In this chapter, I meet my twin flame, and then I move from Provo, Utah to Las Vegas, Nevada, and my twin flame and I elope. I'm going to get myself into reading mode. Oh yeah, just a heads up, I'll be using a little sound clip on my laptop because there's a word I can't pronounce, but you might recognize it from a very popular show. We shared the ultimate love, we thought. We met and it was love at first sight. In case you've never felt this before, it's like for the very first time you're aware of every cell of your body operating in unison. It's impossible to give full attention to where the feeling is coming from, so you just call it God because it's beyond butterflies in the stomach or weak in the knees. It's a feeling that no one can describe. We knew this was a divine union. It felt like it had been centuries since we had last spoken. It was our first date, and I was asking about his family and every detail about his life that I felt like I needed to catch up on. We would confirm with each other back and forth about how we felt so that we wouldn't feel crazy. He was so beautiful, and his beauty on the outside matched the inside. I loved the way his eyes looked into mine, like he just found the greatest treasure and only he was the worthy beholder. I surrendered my love to him. I felt like I was remembering what it was like to be loved and was being reminded what love was just by being in his presence. I felt electrified, and I was conscious and aware where all of a sudden I knew what the love songs meant. I knew what love meant. It became so clear. I didn't have any insecurities about how he thought of me. I felt his reflection, and I felt that when his blue, beautifully happy eyes looked at me, I felt like he was part of me, a part of me that was missing, and I felt complete, and I embraced that about him. He had the sweetest dimples, and his laugh was unbridled. And he didn't care how silly he sounded, and he would just look at me longingly like he was the luckiest guy ever. We danced all night at the Gillies Country Bar, and later I stayed the night at his house. We didn't have on the first night, because when we held each other in our arms, it was just euphoric. It was magical. We couldn't contain the magic, so we just let the energy ride. It was hard for me to believe I didn't create him. Every hair on his body, every pore, and every line was perfect. It was day 5 since we'd met, and he popped the question. Will you extend your trip one more time? I want to take you to EDC with me this weekend. I'll get you a ticket so you don't have to worry about it. Please stay a little longer, can you? How could I say no to this offer? But I didn't know what EDC was. Of course I will, I grinned. I loved being in his home, being with him as much as I could. What's EDC? You haven't heard of EDC? It's the Electric Daisy Carnival. His eyes lit up as he explained this, like he himself was electric. Where all my favorite DJs and music artists come together in one place at the Motor Speedway. It's in the middle of the night, so you can see all the lights, and the stages are huge. We'll dress up. I can probably get some outfits for you to borrow from some friends. You'll love it. I knew this was going to be the start of the best of our lives. The day before EDC, Kevin caught me off guard with a sincere question. Okay, there's something I need to tell you about, he said, which felt like a warning mixed with a secret. Don't feel pressured to partake, but my buddies and I get party favors before going to festivals. Are you okay with that? I didn't know what he meant by party favors. Yeah, of course. Like, what are you talking about? Like MDMA, Molly, acid, and mushrooms. Have you done any of these before? I shook my head no. We do it safely and cut the Molly with serotonin enhancing supplements. If you want to give it a try, I'll make sure I give you the right amount for your first time. We'll get some children's electrolyte juice from the grocery store before we head out so that we can get healthy as quickly as possible. We have a system. You'll be in good hands if you want to party. But again, no pressure. I just need to know that you're cool with me and my buddies doing it. It all started to make sense now why we're making colorful costumes and body paint. Okay, so how much do I owe you for the drugs if I want to try some? I asked. They're like $40 an e-pill. An e-pill? Ecstasy, Molly, MDMA. It's all the same thing, but don't worry about it. This experience is on me. I'll bring you with me to meet my friend before we go on our date. I need to suck up before everyone gets in town this weekend. Within a moment, I went from opening my heart to a man I had just met to agreeing to witness my very first drug deal and agreeing to do illegal drugs for the first time in my life. I made myself a white sequin feather bra with a white mini skirt for my outfit on day 1. Day 2's outfit was Cleopatra, while he was Anubis. Anubis seemed to be his spirit totem, the only tattoo he'd ever get if he chose to get one day. At EDC, I had my apprehensions about taking the Molly because I've always heard from friends that if you ever take it, nothing will ever feel that good again. However, I was willing to take my chances because I wanted to experience everything new with Kevin, so I popped the Molly. The magic I felt with Kevin was a remembrance and a knowing, like God talking to me. But when we were high on Molly together, I knew that what I felt was synthetically stimulated because I compared that feeling to the real thing, meeting Kevin, which was the real magic. This was true love. The Molly simply amplified what I was already feeling, but I loved the way he looked at me even more. The crowds were a lot for me to handle, especially experiencing my first drug high and in public. I loved how secure and safe I felt in his hands. "Don't let go," I said. "Please don't let go of my hand." "I'll never let go." He looked down, gleaming with forever in his eyes. His words carried an eternal promise. Then we noticed a beautiful wedding altar where some people were actually getting married. "Let's go and pretend," I exclaimed. We went to the altar and held hands, our hearts sworn in each other's gaze. "And who do we have the pleasure of marrying this fine evening?" the lady officiant asked. "We are lovers for life," I said. "Lovers for life," he echoed back. "I present to you the lovers for life," the officiant shouted. We kissed, and everyone around us cheered and applauded. "It's you and me against the world, baby," he leaned over to me with a kiss. We felt like the celebration at EDC was just for us. The music, the joy, the fireworks. All the good music, good vibes, and wonderful lights. We passed by people who were obviously high on drugs as well, and watched a man making hand movements, kind of like this, with lights on the tips of his gloves. I was amazed. I loved the look on their faces in awe of the mesmerizing patterns and movements. I said to Kevin, "I want to be that." "You want to be lights?" "Yeah, I want to be lights." I loved him showing me the lights, music, and the love through his eyes. This was a beautiful new way to express the new me. We made new friends together and received confirmations from everyone we met that we were the most stunning couple. We looked like Barbie and Ken, and we loved it. I truly felt that everything was aligned for us. In the back of my mind, I knew that the drugs were illegal, but I had just left the Mormon church earlier that year, and trying new things was so liberating for me because I felt like I was exploring what's right and wrong. I even questioned if there's such thing as right and wrong. I felt the liberation of leaving the church. Whoa. Everything I've been taught is a lie, I realized as my curiosity took over my new identity. Meeting Kevin opened up a whole new world of possibilities, a new way of thinking, being accepted, seeing life in color, life in beauty, goodness, joy, and happiness. He was bouncy all the time. He played all the new good music. He showed me so many beautiful ways of living that I couldn't even fathom because I had come from a world that was black and white. With Kevin, I felt free. I felt liberated. I felt like I was fun and interesting and had permission to explore myself so much more, and I was accepted. I didn't get to experience this with my family. I never felt anything close to this kind of love, even with my own family. I thought to myself, Kevin is my family now. Okay, so he and I just quickly became that couple where we were just love bombing each other and we were expressing it all over social media. And before you start saying like, oh, every time I see a happy couple, that's a red flag, or every time people are posting all the time about being happy, I just believe that they're toxic or whatever, don't do that. We all have a right to express how we feel, whether it's good or bad or expressing our love, whatever. Just because you learned for yourself that when things were toxic and you shared things that contradicted reality doesn't mean that everyone else who is sharing something that they love, try not to project yourself onto other people who are happy. It's a sign that you're healing if you aren't accepting other people's happiness, but just have the awareness that every thought that you think is really about you and not the other person. So back to the point. We were just putting everything out there about our love because that was real, okay? The feelings that we felt were real and they were validated, and we just really enjoyed this ride, this wave, and we really did put each other first. And looking back, I feel like that is a red flag, is if you put the other person first. Don't come at me for that, but personally, we'll be seeing my journey of how difficult it was for me to put myself first. So now it's time to share with you a quote from Kevin on his Facebook. And I'll be using that little clip from How I Met Your Mother because I don't know how to pronounce a certain word. Okay, so this is quoting Kevin. After over 300 first dates, trying to find the one and not willing to settle for just a good one, my patience finally paid off. I met many amazing women, but never my lebenslanger Schicksalsschatz or lifelong treasure of destiny. After the first encounter with Bree Leach, I knew she was the one. I could feel it in my heart, mind, and soul. It just wasn't the magical feeling of finding someone new. It was so much more. My refusal to settle led me to finally finding my lebenslanger Schicksalsschatz. Lebenslanger Schicksalsschatz. It's not something that develops over time. It's something that happens instantaneously. It causes swirling like the water of a river after a storm, filling you and emptying you all at once. You feel it throughout your body, in your hands, in your heart, in your stomach, in your skin. Have you ever felt this way about someone? If you have to think about it, you have not felt it. Everyone has the potential for it. You just never know when or where. A How I Met Your Mother quote that sums up the love of my life. To all those out there still searching, wait for this moment. You will know when it happens, and it'll be hard to explain it to anyone but your lebenslanger Schicksalsschatz, who will feel the exact same for you. Of course, reading that Facebook post that he wrote just was an echo of my heart. Back to me now. This connection was enough for me to not think twice to leave my state, family, friends, a house that I was about to build, and eventually my career and my dog in order to elope and start a new life with my tall, blonde, Ken doll-like US Air Force Captain twin flame. We planned our wedding for July 16th, which would give us a few days of honeymooning before his deployment. Even though our love was written in the stars, it was important for him to maintain the image that we didn't just elope after only knowing each other for 33 days. This was the beginning of our relationship around me keeping his secrets. He insisted that our marriage remained secret until we had a real ceremony with our friends and family. I want to experience a true engagement, and then we can have our family celebrate with us properly, he explained. And I was on board with that idea. Of course, I told my mom, but this made him upset. This didn't bother me because I knew he wouldn't understand. I figured if he could lie to his parents, he just wasn't as close to his as I was with mine. The day we got married, he went to the gym while I shopped for his ring and my wedding dress. I was in the dressing room at Express when I received a call from him. Don't freak out, okay, babe? I'm in the hospital. I freaked out. It's not a big deal. I'm fine, I promise. I just slipped a disc. The wedding is still on. I'll be there. Chad is going to drive me home, though. In the ER, he told everyone, I can't get high today. I'm getting married. When his friend Chad came to pick him up, the nurse said, are you the best man? So the cat was out of the bag, and Kevin invited him to be the best man. I finished my shopping, and we all headed back to the house around the same time. I couldn't help but notice how different he seemed under the influence of oxycodone, but he reassured me that he'd be ready for a ceremony in time. You sure? I hesitated. Are you sure you're okay? Kevin locked his eyes onto mine as he shuffled closer with outstretched hands to cradle my face. It's you and me against the world, and nothing will change that. Although his words were meant for me, it seemed in his eyes that he was talking to a stranger. I looked over his shoulder and took Chad's nod as reassurance that Kevin's in good hands. I hurried upstairs to get in my new wedding dress. There was no time to waste. Having almost forgotten the recent tragedy, I glided down the stairs in my white satin halter sundress and gold high heels. I was ready to be welcomed by my new king. All the floodlights were off downstairs, while Kevin stood illuminated by the under cabinet lights and neon LED lights that lined the upper cabinets. The mood seemed right, but Kevin, with his back to me, in his dress blues, had his head bowed above the countertop. Next to his right hand was an open bottle of vodka and an empty shot glass. Babe, are you okay? I asked, approaching him in my new dress that he hadn't seen me in yet. He slowly turned towards me, trying not to make eye contact. I don't know. I just don't feel like he had a difficult time piecing the right words together. I don't feel like you support this marriage as equally as I do. Why? Hold on, wait. Tell me what's on your mind. Please tell me what's going on.